Welcome to Podcrushed. That'll make more sense later.
Penn, are you aware that your voice is I think increasingly being used by AI?
Oh my God.
Well, increasingly meaning I've heard it once. I've heard it a few times on TikTok, as a narration or voiceover, sometimes on ads, sometimes on people's random videos. And then I'll be like, do I work with Penn so often that I over imagine it's him? And then I'll look at the comments and people will be like, why is Penn Badgley narrating this random video? I recently saw it on a very gossipy, slanderous video. Oh, lovely.
And I was deeply disturbed that they had chosen your voice for it. And it sounded very much like you. And a lot of people thought it was you.
No,
they're like, why is
come
Penn
on.
Badgley narrating this?
No, they must know though. I mean, that's like...
No, there were comments where people thought it was you. So it's also the AI really sounded like you.
See, okay, so that's actually surprising to me. I should be having a more outwardly horrified reaction. I'm not. I'm just containing it all as I always do. But I think what I'm surprised by though is that the media literacy of young people, especially, is usually so good. I'm surprised that there's people who believe that it's because that's just a thing now. It's like, oh, people's faces and voices are just being used like skin.
I feel like there's been so many times when I've shown David a video, I'll be like, oh my God, look at this. And then 2 seconds later, I look at the comments and I'm like, oh, never mind, it's not real. I feel like it's getting so good, it's hard to tell. You do a little digging and you then realize, but
there was one I saw, I didn't click on it because I was not gonna influence my algorithm to this point, but I saw a little icon thumbnail for one where Leo DiCaprio now was dancing with Leo DiCaprio from the Titanic, and it looked really good. I'm on board with that AI. You know what I mean?
You didn't want that to be in your algorithm?
No, because then it just starts getting messy.
Isn't there there's a whole, is it Tom Cruise? Anyway, there's some celebrity that there's a whole TikTok account of him just dancing. Anyway.
No, I didn't know that.
I think it is Tom Cruise.
Is it Tom Cruise? Okay, so good to know. Penn's not super stressed about AI using his voice to narrate celebrity slander.
I guess you're just going to, all people in the future are just going to have to get really comfortable with things being out there, with who they are to their core. They have to know, I know who I am. The people around me know who I am, what I would do, what I would say, and hopefully most other people. But
when you start to put it that way, I'm a little bit more concerned. I'm like, wait a second,
really
am I actually going to be held accountable for this? Oh yeah, well we'll see. We'll see where the world takes us, won't we? We shall see. I'm not worried for myself, though. I think is what I'm saying.
Yeah. That's good.
You know who I'm not worried for as well?
Who? Tell me.
Our guest today, Ilana Glazer, the actor and writer best known for co-creating Broad City. She starred as Ilana Wexler. A little bit confusing, but Ilana, alongside her pal and co-creator Abby Jacobson. Ilana's got many other TV and film credits like The Afterparty, Babes. Most recently, however, a sophomore stand-up special that is really impressing people, making its rounds. Human Magic is out now on Hulu. It's hysterical. Ilana's hysterical. We're so glad she's here. Please stick around. Welcome to Podcrushed. We're your hosts. I'm Penn.
I'm Sophie.
And I'm Nava. And I think we would have been your middle school besties.
Smoking weed for the first time out back behind the bleachers.
I would never. That's perfect.
I just before this was holding my very sick toddler. He's got the flu as well as Domino. It's been insane. But I have I don't know that you can really see it, but I have snot on my shoulder, and in the spirit of your special and a lot of what you're talking about in parenting, it's been on one hand, highly stressful the last, particularly 72 hours. But then on the other, the only thing that's made it stressful are things like, deadlines, jobs, capitalism, that kind of stuff. In the moment, what I'm getting to do is I'm getting to hold my 4-year-old as he sleeps only on my chest because he has to be upright. He won't really sleep right now laying down. And so I was forced at a time when I otherwise would have been fretting about something else, doing something else. I was forced while my wife napped, I was holding him, and just I could do nothing but meditate and pray, and it was actually a really great way to step into this space. And there's something about what you're talking about in your special now and parenting overall that I think is really gorgeous.
I totally, the highs and lows simultaneously are like so hard to hold because we're so trained in this system that we live in to think things are one thing at a time, which nothing is. Like, but there's so many layers that, to every moment that we live during parenting, it's like impossible. It's undeniable when in those heightened moments of parenting to reduce life to some narrative that we've taken part in, you and I. TV and film like really makes you think that like this one thing happens and it's bad, and by the end,
especially
it's
mine.
good.
I think especially what I've been doing has done that. I think you've been doing something a little bit more benevolent and nuanced.
No.
I think what I've been doing is
yeah, but even me, I've been justifying this whole machine.
Sure,
even if it's feminist and whatever or interesting, in a particular way. It's just it's kind of just what you're saying, like about the separation of capitalism late stage, by the way, from like the actual humanity we live. It's like kind of it all be good, even like lighter material that's like more escapist. It would all be good if everybody had healthcare. Like if everybody had healthcare, it wouldn't be so the evils wouldn't be as insidious. It would be like, oh well, everything has like light and dark to it, but the fact that like the basic needs aren't met, the fact that every American's basic need isn't met makes the darkness, the like bottom out and feel so dark. And like you're like kind of also what you're talking about, Penn, is like the analogous. I've been thinking about like the scam that is putting the onus of like the environmental catastrophe on the people to use like metal straws.
Yeah.
You better use those metal straws if you want to be a good liberal person. And it's like, why don't
Nava's got one.
companies?
I'm using a glass straw. Yeah.
It was glass. Glass.
Glass.
Is much,
Now it's glass. You have a glass butt plug. You have a glass straw if you want. And it's just like, no, the fossil fuel companies should definitely stop, but at least be taxed,
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, the onus. I refuse to hold you accountable, my friend.
Hard left, we always start at 12 years old. And you are, and by the way, that is it's not entirely because, but the fun dynamic between us three co-hosts is that I dropped out of middle school. I didn't finish middle school because I was working. And then these two were teachers and administrators at middle schools.
Hold up. I gotta swallow that for a second. What happened with anything with high school? Did anything happen? Or
I went to high school for less than a month.
This is very George Harrison, by the way. He dropped out at 14. Wow, you started working. That's crazy.
Yeah, at 12.
Okay,
at 12.
I just needed to process that.
Yeah.
Okay, go on. Sorry.
But I really want to hear. We want to hear. I think because you seem to be such a student of the craft of comedy and writing, and the way that you speak about your family life seems to, it seems like they were very encouraging. There was, you were given a camera very young by your father. So I'm just, and then there's also your brother, where it seems like you guys are making a lot of stuff together. So we just want like a snapshot of Ilana at 12, how you were seeing the world, how the performing arts were beginning to influence and shape the way you saw the world and your role in it, all of that.
12. It like Sophie and Nava. It's so sweet that you guys worked with 12-year-olds. So thank you also for doing that work. And also Penn, you talking about my brother. It's like so much of my childhood and my sense of comedy was organized around my brother Elliot, who's also a comedian, a writer, and performer. So he was 16 at the time, and I was 12. And when I was 12. And I think we were starting to be friends again. While he was going through puberty, he was like, bye. You know what I mean? We had like in early childhood, we were making all these sketch videos. Then as he was going through puberty, he's like, no, get away from me. And then when he was like 16, and I was pretty forward thinking for my age. So I like I could hang with like a 16-year-old, no big deal, guys. No, not really. But we were like starting to be friends again. And I think this sense of like punk comedy was starting to take shape in the city. Alt comedy, it was called at the time. Where, it started off in film as like mumblecore and this sense of like awkwardness with like Michael Cera and Jonah Hill,
right.
and Shawkat. In Arrested Development, like that was so. I mean, she wasn't. They weren't emerging yet at that time, but like I just mean that they were like kind of the leaders of that movement in comedy, and so there was this alt scene happening in New York City, and it was, in my mind, it was the Upright Citizens Brigade TV show, Strangers with Candy,
Oh yeah.
and Stella was this comedy group of made up of David Wayne, Michael Ian Black, and Michael Showalter.
Oh, that's right. They had a Comedy Central show, didn't they? Or for a bit they had something.
To be real, the show was not as potent as their YouTube videos, which are now like scrubbed from the internet. But there was like, making comedy on the internet and having any alternative besides clubby stand-ups that were like, stand-up clubs that were like a particular thing, misogynist and racist as punchlines, just as, I'm not even saying like they were all this or all that. That was just sort of the vibe, like a harsher vibe, and SNL. And then when I was 12 years old and Comedy Central was like, and building up this like wave of comedy of UCB, Strangers with Candy, and what did I just say? Well, Stella was happening, not on Comedy Central at the time, but having more stand-up on TV and just to know, being on Long Island and knowing that's happening in the city was so exciting and buzzing inside of me. And my brother and I really had our like eyes on the city, our eyes on the alt comedy scene brewing and growing, which then eventually became kind of mainstream comedy, like awkward and women leading the comedy wave. So I was like starting to, I guess, like make videos with my friends. My brother and I weren't making the sketch videos anymore. We did that more as like little kids. And I remember getting like a video recorder. What do you call it? A camcorder. And filming my friends. And we weren't even doing sketches as much, but I was like starting to document. But I was also into music at this time too. I was a drummer. And I was really, it was such a great way to be like obsessive and also get lost, like with yourself, like just like playing drums. I was like, as you like heard in my special, I was in jazz band, really obsessed.
Yeah.
And like was playing drums for hours and hours by myself and with friends. And I would say at 12, what really like hits me is I was depressed. I was really depressed when I was 12. I also cover this on my special. I got big titties young. I was like, my body was like a woman, it's not a girl, not a girl, not a woman. And I was uncomfortable and I didn't know what to do with it. And I wasn't having fun with it. I was like really scared of it and getting attention. On Long Island, there's such a fucking aggressive energy, you know what I mean? And where I grew up, everybody's a fucking tough guy or whatever. And there was just this really aggressive energy where I just started looking to the city. Comedy at this point was like this vehicle that was like a little train car on the Long Island Railroad. I wanted to like ride into the city and never come back because I felt weird there.
There's so much rich stuff there, but I want to circle back to you being a female drummer. I don't know why, for some reason, because I'm not that young, but not old enough for this to have been my thinking, but I couldn't picture a female drummer growing up. And then I had a friend, her name was Carmel Bolkin, who was a female drummer, and I couldn't then picture anything cooler than being a female drummer. But in your special, you talk about jazz band being like its own kind of birth control. And I'm just curious, is that just like a funny thing, or were you genuinely like not a cool female drummer?
Why weren't you cooler?
No, because I'm a nerd. Because I'm like really a nerd. I'm very anxious. I'm very it's almost like productivity is like the thing I can focus on. I'm less anxious now. These past few years, like post Broad City, having a kid, I'm like coming into my like body more in a way that I'm embarrassed to say because I'm 37 years old. You know what I mean?
No,
Like
I feel
I wish I was one of those people who was like all up in my own like shit, you know, like younger, but then I wouldn't have the like sort of comedy toolbox that I have. So whatever.
I feel like Ilana on Broad City never would have existed then.
Yeah.
You know
That's
what I
right.
mean?
That's right. My husband says, and it's exactly correct. It's almost like I blacked out and Alana Wexler was my like subconscious, finally just seeking pleasure and just getting pleasure. Because it's true, because the real me was like eating savvy and freaking out every night about deadlines. Like it took so much to construct this carefree character. And I wouldn't say I wasn't a cool drummer, but I wasn't like a fuck you drummer. I was like, oh, I want to be really good. And I was like,
what were you playing?
Like, I played drum set, but I played,
but I mean, like what kind of music was it? Was that jazz or was
Miles
it
Davis?
You know what I mean?
I would just like play Miles Davis albums. I'm not joking.
Wow.
My special, like literally, just play Miles Davis albums, like from start to finish. You know, just
and you could play those drums.
I was really good. I was really
That's amazing. Ilana.
And also,
really,
like,
really impressed.
Timpani, like, I loved orchestra percussion, like a fucking nerd. I honestly, like, I always wanted to do comedy since I was like 7 or 8. I was like, I held this like secret in me of like, I'm gonna be a comedian. I remember the first time I said it out loud to my dad. I was like, I think I was like 15 or something. You know, and like but like from like 7 years old, 7 or 8 years old, I knew it. But like at about 12 or 13, like music was so, it was almost like, you know, I did theater in school, but it was the immediacy of the production of music. You could just get together and play. It was so productive and kinetic and generative, you know, so prolific. I really loved that. And yeah, so it wasn't like, this is like, I don't know what this is, and I wish I knew her name, but I took my cousin to the Harry Styles concert because she loves Harry Styles, and she was pointing out this drummer to me, and this bitch is rad. She's fucking playing to Madison Square Garden, and she's a mom, and she's so cool, and like, maybe I could play what she's playing, but not with that fucking attitude. She was like light and just like poppy and having fun. I would be like dissociating, like making sure I was like doing a good job. Yeah. I think it's my anxiety that makes me not truly cool.
But it makes you successful.
Yeah. And I think that being true to yourself is the deepest cool, and trying to be cool is like super fucking lame. So that's my that's my my practice.
That's so true. I lived in New York City in my 20s, and in my early 20s, before I got married, I lived with a few different girls who became like my best friends. And one of them, Shireen, who's still a best friend of mine today, introduced me to Broad City while we were living together in New York City in our early 20s. So it really was formative, I feel like. And something I've noticed across a few of your projects is I feel like you've depicted friendship so beautifully and in a way that I don't see in that many other places. And I'm wondering about your friendships at this time in your life, like 12, 13, 14. Did you have really close, intimate friends, or did that happen more in adulthood?
Delicious question. They're still my best friends. Eden Rafe, now Davis, Daniel VC, Andrew Brischler. I mean, we were just like, get us out of here. And we were like queer and weird and artistic, LOL, not autistic. I don't think, while we certainly display neurodivergence, some of us, I don't think any of us are autistic, but we were very artistic. But no, I still have my best friends from that time. And damn, do we still remember that most minuscule details of being so awkward and such losers. And you know what? Not actually, I take that back. Not losers. Huge fucking nerds, but like always winners, honestly. I'm thinking about this like dichotomy between winners and losers as we prepare for such an extreme display of losers coming up this year, 2025. Losers are, it's all from the inside. Like, people can be winning on the outside with money, with houses, with, a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever, and still want more, not be satisfied. And like, losers could be billionaires who just can't get enough attention, can't get enough money, can't get enough whatever, And like, that's the thing about these best friends, my BBs. We've always been true to ourselves, and we've always been like, whatever. Like, we've always known that if we weren't cool in middle school, like, that's not actually what cool is. Everybody's like pretending and faking it. And we would laugh so hard and so much at the like weird mini society we were in. We graduated with 3,000 kids, like a big old Gen Pop, Gen Ed situation out in Smithtown, Long Island. And also the women, those were my BBs. And then I had my like now and then girlies, Kara, Andrea, and Jenna, who I'm also still close with. We were not getting any attention education wise. So it was really like our education was social. And I proudly will claim that me and my best friends always knew that being true to ourselves was the truly cool thing. However,
that's so cool.
We were like depressed. We were not even close to hooking up. LOL. We weren't kissing anybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The boys were gay, and like fucking harrowing experience for them on Long Island in the 90s. Scary stuff. And we were like, we'll get out of here. You know what I mean? And we've been friends for 30 years. Daniel, 37 years.
That's amazing. I feel like that's kind of rare to know at that time, like, oh, the actually cool thing is to just be ourselves, and this other thing is a mirage. And we talked to one other person so far on the podcast who said something similar. Lisa Kudrow said the same thing. She knew at that time. But how did you know at that time? I just feel like that's so rare.
Part of it is my brother Elliot leading me, and who's also gay. So like, he was holding this being gay while everybody is saying the X slur, and that's so gay. And like, he just knew like, no, that's wrong. I'm cool. His instincts and leadership. But I think it was because we were making each other laugh so hard that it's like, if other people are not saying how fucking funny we are and how fun it is to be us, then something's off here. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I guess it was just like a instinctual, and comedy was the thing that like above the not quite fitting in and not above that not fitting in. It's like music and dance and comedy and the arts is the thing that transcends whatever situation you're in to like reveal a deeper truth.
Hola, crushies. If you don't know what that means, hopefully you know hola by now. But if you don't, I think it's time for some Rosetta Stone. Before I moved to China several years ago, I was desperate to learn a little Mandarin so I could navigate the country. And I was trying different things, and a friend of mine recommended Rosetta Stone, and that was a total game changer for me. It made navigating Beijing so much easier. It made it possible, and I'm really grateful. And so I know that if I were going to recommend to someone a language learning program, if they're going to move to another country or they just want to scratch that itch, or you're trying to keep your brain active with learning new things, I would recommend Rosetta Stone. Don't put off learning that language. There's no better time than right now to get started. For a very limited time, Podcrushed listeners can get Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership for 50% off. Visit rosettastone.com/podcrush. That's 50% off unlimited access to 25 language courses for the rest of your life. Redeem your 50% off at rosettastone.com/podcrush today.
The way we support our children's learning has a big impact on their overall well-being. Every child is unique with their own learning style and pace, and some kids may need extra help in one subject, and others aren't being challenged enough in another. No matter where they are, they deserve a personalized approach to their education. That is where IXL Learning comes in. IXL is an online program that covers math, language arts, science, and social studies. It's designed to make learning engaging and fun while also helping kids truly understand and master each topic. And plus, IXL's positive feedback system keeps them motivated and excited to keep learning. I am a huge fan of IXL's approach. It's making a real difference for children across the country. Kids who use IXL consistently see big improvements in their grades, and research shows they also score higher on tests. And here is the best part. IXL offers one subscription that covers everything from pre-K through 12th grade. They're committed to making education simple, effective, and trustworthy for every family. IXL is used in 95 of the top 100 school districts in the U.S. Make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now. And Podcrushed listeners can get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at IXL.com/podcrushed. Visit IXL.com/podcrushed to get the most effective learning program out there at the best price. I'm just curious, if you were to theorize, if you were to dig deep, what do you think would have allowed you and your friends, let's just focus on you for a moment, to not be depressed at that age? Because it's so common, because it's, you know what I mean? Like, what would empower that person? What would,
I
you know?
I mean, like, I really, I talk about this in my special. I struggled with anxiety and depression for like 22 years. Like, truly, like, Broad City, we decided to end it. It was not like, it was a decision from the inside out, which was really hard, but what we had to do for ourselves personally and creatively. Um, and I feel like I kind of got out of this. I do psychoanalysis. I do therapy 3 times a week. Ha ha ha.
3.
Mm,
All right.
And that has really been a huge part of how I have gotten out of anxiety and depression, but also like just life events and life and
Yeah.
coming into my own. So for me, like it covers so much of my life being depressed and anxious that I'm kind of like, why not have it? It's so part of my experience that like this question doesn't I can't even undo it because it's just
Okay.
such a big
Yeah.
part of my life. And I'm like, how could you not be? Like, Penn, with our kids, my kiddo's 3.5 and Boone's a little older, but like this is about the age when they're gonna when they start understanding death and then they ask questions. And I feel like 12 is about the age when you start like holding the darkness in the world
Yeah.
and that some people aren't gonna like you. The puberty thing was really hard where I was like, I am uncomfortable here, like that was really hard. But like to start understanding how the world works and that it's like really fucking unfair, like um I couldn't even undo the depression in my mind. I don't think there would be a way to not make
Well,
that kid
yeah.
depressed.
I feel you there. And that's, I guess, yeah, my question was missing probably more context of the reason I was asking it. I mean, first of all, I was very depressed. I mean, those years, 12 to 20, were absolutely by far and away the darkest of life.
And working. I mean, I could
Wow.
I could unpack like,
Yeah. Well,
for me, like I
that's,
was just thinking in contrast to you, like we're finding art in our little like cocoon of a world to be like actually outward facing. Selling that art is
I know.
wild.
It's not, yeah.
Wild.
It's,
And getting judged for it.
yeah. I mean,
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
my sense, reflecting on this time, as we do hear a lot, and then just the way that I see things, like, and I hope this sounds sensitive and empowering to anybody listening who struggles with it, because I have too. To me, like, depression is often a very sensitive response to the reality of the world, right? Of our culture and stuff. And so to me, it wasn't some, I don't mean it in a way where it's like, what would she have needed to do to not be depressed? What would that person, Ilana, at 12, 13, growing up, coming into yourself, like, but I guess then it just goes immediately into all the social and political things.
I don't know. Like because also as
you
you
know,
were like talking, I'm like thinking like in my head, I'm like, well, maybe if I had more of an outlet for art and it was like
yeah,
more seen, but like no, I don't think so. I'm thinking like I also like didn't know what to do with my body. I was a nerd. I wasn't like hooking up with people. Maybe if I were and having fun with the experience, that would have been healthy and more fun. I think honestly, like my parents were so supportive and our home was so safe, but also there were limitations there. Perhaps if
Mm.
they were able to see that I was depressed and hold it, it would just not be this weight I was carrying, but rather the way things were for me at that time, rather than this like giant rock I was carrying like under my shirt everywhere. I
Mm.
think that probably is it. And I don't think it's I don't understand how anyone can get through this world without periods of
Mm.
depression.
Oh,
And now
totally.
that I'm out of it, really, really was genuinely in it for I would say from like 11 to 32 or 33. Like so for like 22 years. Now that I'm out of it, when I'm sad, it's a different feeling than feeling depressed. Depressed is there's like a 30-pound blanket on you. You know what
Mm.
I mean? And it's like it's really a different um sensation than normal sadness. Then maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you people do get by in this world feeling their sadness and moving through it rather than having periods of depression, but I don't never met anyone.
Extremely emotionally healthy people seem to. I mean, you almost indicate that your husband seems to be all. I mean, I don't want to. I don't know, but like you speak about him in the special, where it sounds like. I think there are uh, some of those emotionally sound and incredibly.
No, but he has so struggled with depression and anxiety.
Mm.
But no, 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 no.
Mm.
But like he's very emotional and very in touch with it. I think it's not about like not having the feeling. I think it's about your relationship with the feelings.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah, yeah.
mean? I think that's like where the
Mm.
health can come in because we all know we experience sadness, of course, but like I think it's like the way you the way you relate to these feelings, and a
Yeah.
big part of it, and it's something I really like. A big part of my psychoanalysis has been confronting the feelings because I find, and especially like literally doing stand up or like talking about my stand up special, but literally doing stand up, I have had I feel so privileged to be in this psychoanalytic practice to talk through the feelings of like, okay, I step on stage and I'm anxious. And when I want to like not look at that anxiety, it's like, here, bitch, hello, bitch, hello. And it's like
Mm.
knocking on my fucking door. But when I like say to myself, like, whew, this is crazy. I'm a little nervous because there's like
Mm.
2,000 people out there. That is intense. Like I'm taking in
Yeah.
their energy. Of course I
Yeah.
feel like a buzz in my heart and my body feels like excited and my heart's racing and I can just, and then it'll like I'll just move through it and then I'm like present
Mm.
for the people. But I used to be like, no, bitch, go. What are you doing? Go do the material, And it's like,
Mm.
but my relationship with the feelings has changed with a lot of like focused effort and that is how I've moved through it and actually beyond it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Just to circle back to where we started, I was thinking about what you said about these sort of like the fossil fuel companies having so much responsibility, but we tell people to like buy their metal straws. I feel this way a little bit about depression. Like it's very nuanced. And of course, as people, there are healthy choices we can make that where we can help ourselves. And there are practices that lead to more happiness and practices that lead to more depression. But also like we live in a world where we're faced with like existential threats and we're aware
Mm.
of it. So like, yes, there have been climate catastrophes and civilizations have been wiped out, but probably people didn't know they were coming. We live like, there's like stuff on the horizon that we're aware of. Like, how does that affect the human mind? Other people don't know, but we're starting to learn about that. There's like microplastics in our food. We've learned that the US diet is so processed that even when we eat the same amount of pasta as other countries and walk the same amount of steps, we get fatter. There was just a study released about that. Like, there's just all this stuff that's happening that's also connected to our health.
Yeah.
So I actually think that probably most people do experience depression that's out of their hands. Like there are some things that are in your hands and some things that are out of your hands, but it is like all the onus is on you. But there are things that are like, you could be doing everything right, and your gratitude and your mindfulness and you're meditating and you're walking and you're eating healthy, and you're depressed and you don't know why. And there's all this environmental stuff that you're connected to that is out of your hands, and like your institutions are failing you and you're not part of a healthy community. Like all of these factors are important too. So I think most people do experience depression because I think it's a little bit inevitable because our world isn't very healthy right now.
100%. And I actually think that when people are in denial of these realities, it's one thing to put them on pause and take a break and take rest, but to actually be in denial, I think that you're unhealthier and it like builds plaque on your heart or something. I could not agree more. And this just totally resonates with me. How could you not be depressed? And we're seeing warfare on our phones, and we're, causing it by having the phones in some cases. In the cases of the Congo, it's like
Yeah.
it's absolutely depressing. Also, the most infuriating part of it is that it doesn't have to be this way.
Exactly.
And the oligarchs who are hoarding wealth of constructed currency are like, unfortunately, it's the only way things are. And it's like, no, actually, it's like literally constructed, and you're holding tight to this construct because you claim to be so thrilled to be in your position. Meanwhile, these are miserable people who are anybody wreaking havoc, wreaking destruction, talking about trans bodies and policing Black bodies. Why do you care? You're in a private jet here and there. Why do you care? Because they're actually unhappy with themselves. And there is a bottomless dearth. They're depressed too. You know what I mean? They're depressed too. And like we all, this like global consciousness we've been building for the past few years, like I really believe genuinely that the majority of people want the same thing, want basic human rights for everybody, because everybody would feel just like chiller. I have access to healthcare. I've had access to healthcare for since Broad City started. I mean, I always have if I, under my parents, and then if I needed, but I mean, I've had health insurance in television for, for many years now. But it really bothers me that I see people on the street who I'm like, that person definitely does not have healthcare and is going to go to the ER and find a host of problems because they don't have access to normal doctor's appointments. It's not only, it's not just bothersome, but it's like weighing me down and sad and upsetting, and also costing me. It is more expensive for New York City not to have, preventative health. But like our system is set up this way. It's set up to profit off of sickness, to profit off of this imbalance that I really feel most people disagree with. And I have hope that we can write our way into, I mean, WRITE, write our way, write a new script into a new world. It's just, just sucks how hard it's going to be.
You spoke, I mean, yes, amen to that. I mean, you spoke a moment ago about global consciousness we've been building the last few years, and then a few other things. To take that and just circle back to your to your adolescence real quick before we get into the rest of your career. You've referenced. I mean, it sounds like there's almost these two churches or a twin church, which it's a synagogue that contained a few things. Was your Judaism and comedy, and so, but I'm curious specifically about spirituality, in as much as you thought about it at that age, which I think or existential, however you want to frame it. I mean, at that age, those questions do really matter, like what are we doing here? What is the purpose of life? And if there is, what is it? And there's just many things that I mean, it's the title of your special, Human Magic, so I'm curious at that age, how you saw that. How were you thinking about those kinds of questions?
Well, at that age, I was ramping up my Hebrew school attendance to get ready for my comic stuff.
Of course.
Of course, yeah.
And, actually I was talking about our kiddos, Penn, at the age that they're at now, that they're going to start asking me is like, oh my God, these heavy questions. And when I was like 4 years old, I remember asking my dad these questions. My dad was the one who can handle it, asking him where babies come from, about death, thinking about like space, staying up in my room, being like, what? It just goes on and on. And at 12, I think it was this new, actually an expanded ability to hold that, which like was also part of becoming depressed. I'm finding my way back to like really practicing my Judaism. I've been practicing Shabbat for a while, as I like mentioned in my special, of just like turning off my phone, and for 24 hours, like really reset my humanity and my relationship to it. But I always loved Hebrew school, even when it was annoying. And I'm still best friends with Annie Friedman. She was, I have a lot of best friends from home.
And that's so sweet. I love that.
Yeah, I feel so lucky about that. And my friend Annie, who I'm like really, you know her too, Penn. Jonas is her son.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we, even when Hebrew school was annoying, it was very funny. It was like this, it was like so Jewy, and like such a, like there were such like jokes happening. In my first special, I talk about this crazy role playing thing they did. They surprise, a pogrom is like a raid, like raiding Jews like in the Holocaust. It did yes, they did a non-consensual pogrom Holocaust play. I call it my first special. Crazy shit. And and like it was like irresponsible. They there was like always such a layer. And I was just saying to Annie, she and I were cracking up at like a school thing, and I was like, this is like full synagogue giggles. Like it was always fun just for like the pressure cooker of a comedy context, even when it wasn't like spiritually enlightening. But I always liked the practice of like these, considering my ancestors and these ancient texts that like are sometimes just like words, and then when you like stop and think about the meaning, it's like, oh my God, so interesting. So I think it was like inspiring to me as the writer, and as an anxious person, it's always nice to have rituals. And I think also like, comedy is such a Jewish and Jewy area. There was some like merging of that inside of me as I started to like know that comedy was what I wanted to pursue. And so many of my comedy heroes were Jewish. I like grew up watching Seinfeld, Mel Brooks. I always loved. The Daily Show was starting when I was about 12 years old. I loved Jon Stewart.
Oh, yeah.
I consider Whoopi Goldberg Jewish. I don't know. That's just me. She was always my hero. And, so that was like sort of like starting to build at the foundation of my identity.
Before we move right into your career, there are two classic questions that our listeners know we ask people, and they would be upset if we didn't ask you. One is, what was going on for you around that time, adolescence, around crushes? You mentioned a little bit. You said you weren't kissing, you weren't hooking up, but what was happening?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Bone dry. Oh, crushes? No, I had totally crushes. But gosh, I'm thinking.
Was there like a first crush at that point?
Danny McKenna. Danny. He was everybody's crush. Oh my gosh, he was the sweetest boy. But that's more elementary school. Like maybe I still had a crush on him in middle school. I don't know. I was like kind of, I was also like feeling my queerness too. I liked girls. I was like really, and boys, and I was like not really not pursuing anything, but like desperately wishing, and not even knowing like that it was possible. Because like my friends and I, we were just like, we were happy hanging out and like surviving. But yeah, I was, gosh, Danny McKenna, but that was more not really for middle school. I definitely had crushes, but there was nobody like burned into my brain. I remember more just being like, things getting more physical, noticing everybody's bodies, not able to like locate what my feeling was about those bodies, being so like like electrified, but like not knowing how to channel the energy with my own body. It was like a very frustrating time, I would say.
Mm.
The other classic question is just for an embarrassing story.
From that
And
time.
wait, I have one other thing, is that I was really obsessed with Freddie Prinze Jr. Obsessed. In seventh grade.
I
like
haven't thought of
literally
that
like
name in a
magazine clippings,
Yeah.
LOL, like analog, like obsessed. And he actually was like Danny McKenna, Danny, LOL, like Dan, but like when we were kids, called him Danny. He was like damn. He was just so hot, Freddie Prinze Jr., and so sweet looking too, which I feel
He's very sweet.
True.
It's true.
Yeah, it's true.
Very,
Do you
very
know
sweet.
him, Penn?
Know him? No, I don't know him. But
But
like,
he
I mean,
seems really nice. And
he does.
He and
He
Sarah Michelle
seems
Gellar
very
seem so
nice.
nice.
Yeah. Both of them.
So I don't know. So I was really, really excited about him, but didn't really know how to deal with that. And an embarrassing story. You know what?
From middle school.
Oh, from middle school, like kind of a little later.
It can also
fine.
be
High
a little
school's
bit
great.
later.
I just told my husband a story and we were dying. And my sweet husband, Penn, you've met him, David. He really does love me for who I am. But like, I mean, literally quarterly, I'm like, are you sure? You know? And so there was this guy, Greg, but I won't say his last name, who I worked with at this golf club. This like crazy, I couldn't believe that like private clubs were a thing. You know, I was like catering at this club, this like Long Island golf club. The food is like garbage, right? The shrimp is like frozen shrimp, and it's like, you know, like mozzarella sticks, and these people are paying $30,000 in 2002 to be part of this like golf club in Nissa Golf Club.
Yeah.
Crazy. I was like, y'all are getting scared. But I was
try catering for a day.
Yeah, truly. It's like falling on the floor and you're putting it back on the tray. So not me, but one.
One would have.
Greg was like older than me. He was 22, I was 16. And we were just like really like liked each other. And he was so funny and he was like a stoner Jewish guy. And I was just like, I liked it. And then the summer was over and I was like, oh my God, I'll never see him again. And it wasn't like I was scared. I was not going to be like, what's your number? I was like a nerd and I was like, that'll be dangerous. So I like didn't get his number. But I was at the pizza shop with Patio Pizza has become a Trump hub, which is really a lovely thing about my town. It's gone Trump and QAnon. So it's a hub for Trump lovers. Sells Trump merch, this pizza place for some reason. But yeah, but at
really
the time
committed. They're committing.
Really committed. It's just a snake eating its own tail. But I saw Greg and I was eating pizza with Daniel and Eden, and I was like, oh my God. And we were like, hey, and we were excited to see each other. And then he was like, yeah, well, we were saying goodbye, and he was like, well, I'll see you around. And I said, as he was walking away, thank God, but I do think he heard it. I was like, hopefully. Eden and Daniel were like, wow, we thought we were nerds, but you're an even bigger nerd. We are. Hopefully. Hopefully, we will see you another time. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
Hopefully.
That's great.
Yeah,
very cute. Alana, your special is amazing. Human Magic is incredible.
Thanks so much. Thank you very much.
The Aladdin labor, that bit took me out.
Yeah.
I don't even have a question. It just like took me out. But thinking of you as like a real person going through that experience is also like, like I said, I don't have a question, but it is like, that's crazy to imagine.
Let me tell your listeners who have yet to watch Human Magic, who are just going to be dying to watch it after they listen to this.
Yeah.
So I had 3 false alarms before I really went into labor and gave birth. And this one particular false alarm, I was because it seemed like maybe I was in labor, I went to the hospital. Wait, what is it that
well, your baby's
I went to the hospital,
right?
and then they did a sonogram and the baby was breech. And Penn, your wife Domino is a doula, so she would know about the following. But I was like, is there any like natural, non-invasive way to get this done, to spin this baby around? Because the way the hospital does it is barbaric.
Yeah.
Barbaric. The way that we leave women high and dry in this medical system, the way that we like literally beat them up
literally
as healthcare is so psychotic and backwards. It is so sick. Our world is so sick. Our poor little sweet little planet. So what Domino would know is something I had to Google, which is a method called spinning babies, where you just go upside down. And I was face down, ass up, chilling with Aladdin. And the next day, I actually did start going into labor. And then when they did the sonogram, the baby had spun in the correct position. From 20 minutes of me doing doggy style, I spun this baby around and avoided this like absolutely violent alternative.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like watching Aladdin during this time, and my daughter has since become obsessed with Aladdin. And they're just too hot. Aladdin and Galvin are just like
They're
too
so
hot.
They
we
are
all know.
so hot.
I'm like,
it's
I'm
the
like,
one that's emblazoned in my mind of all the Disney films.
I both want to be and be in both Aladdin and Jasmine, right? And then to be honest, I'm attracted to Jafar. I don't know. I'm also attracted to Jafar. He's
so
like a bi
is
guy,
Jasmine.
you know,
That's the
femme
problem.
dude, and I'm loving it. And it's weird. It's their doing, you know?
Yeah, they did that.
Washboard abs.
Alana, I'm so curious because I feel, okay, I am a mom too. I have a baby who's just over 1. And I feel like, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Well, once I became a mother, I felt this like push and pull between two simultaneous feelings. One is like this voice in my head that's like, shut up about motherhood. Like you're cooler and you're more multifaceted than that. And there's other things going on and nobody wants to hear about it. And then there's this other that's like, no, like screw anybody who doesn't want to hear about it. This is literally like how the planet continues. And nobody actually has said to me, stop talking about motherhood, but it's like an inner thing that I feel this struggle with. And I feel like you have been in things, you've created things, your special is about parenthood. And I wonder if you've ever had that feeling and how you deal with it, how you combat it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm full self-doubt. And yeah, we, you know, it seems like we're all roughly the same age. And, you know, as, and the other thing I was going to say, women, we were so like abused in our teens, but like men suffer just as much. And I'm also like just starting to change my like vocabulary around, you know, people are like white men. And it's like, this is just it's a class war. It's not a race war. The race war is like a construct. Like white men are getting fucked over too. You know what I mean? Like absolutely fucked over. And like you dehumanize one group and everybody feels less human. Like we were saying before about like the suffering in healthcare. It's like if everybody were taken care of, it would just be like a chiller, this planet would be a chiller place to be. So all that to say that like we've been so spoken down to, mishandled, violated as women. Everybody, like, you know, misogyny used to be an acceptable punchline, period. And we're little girls being like, oh, I guess that's funny. You know what I mean? So I think that a lot of and exactly like moms are perpetuating humanity. The entire system we live in is to make like 5 guys think they could create life. It's actually that they are they feel deprived. Who wants to do it? Who wants to even carry around this growing thing for 10 months? It's like, you want to give birth so bad? You know what I mean? You want to like claim that you can create life? It's really just such a sham. But I have that sensation too, but I think a lot and do a lot of work on remembering what an elaborate scam it is to devalue us and devalue everybody in their own elaborate, interesting, compelling little narrative. But the way that moms are devalued, I've been talking about this doing press for Human Magic. Well, let me just finish the answer here. The way that moms are devalued is the most ludicrous because we are the reason humanity is here. So, it is my job as a comedian to make it funny. And it is my job as someone who's telling stories to make the story interesting and forward moving. I'm really interested in mom shit. I want to know about what's happening with your titties, what's happening, what happened here with, you know what I mean? I want to know what happened about the birth. How's it all doing now? I want to know. It's just like interesting to me. And mom or not, I love bodies. And like, it's like finally an opportunity when you're entering parenting to be able to like talk again. Remember in your 20s, like hooking up with people are like talking about it and it's interesting. It's like free flowing. And then it kind of stops. People partner and it's like, oh, I guess we're not talking about sex
so
anymore.
True. Yeah.
And then like with having kids, it's like, oh, again, you get to talk about your body, and talk about each other's bodies and experiences. And if you're partnered, like how's that going or whatever. So I love it. I love humanity. But I feel that too, where I'm like, oh, who cares? Who this is boring. I'm like pigeonholing myself, but I just know it's a fucking lie. It's just such a lie. I find other stuff boring. You know what I mean? Like I find this really interesting. And it's not what I'm putting out isn't going to be for everybody. Because if it were, it probably wouldn't be actually good. So it would have no lines around it defining it. So I don't know. I talk myself out of that self-doubt, but I have it.
Well, if I can reflect back, it's well said and a beautiful question or point to Sophie. But, I also think you, Ilana, it's an interesting thing where this is going to make me sound really lame because I'm going to say street cred twice now. You have.
Did you say it earlier or you're about to say it twice?
Well, I'm about to say it once, so that will make it twice.
Okay, great.
This is, my brain overlaps. I live in many times at once.
I love it.
You have so much street cred that I think that you could theoretically talk about boring mom shit if it were boring and if it were just shit, but it's not, for a very long time, and people would come along on the ride with you, and at the same time, what you're doing is not. It doesn't feel to me. I'm a father. I'm a parent, so it's all very relatable to me too. But I actually think, for the reasons that you're talking about, it's kind of important to make this stuff feel more kind of relatable to everybody because it surely is. It surely is.
Thank you.
And you're one of those people who's finding a way to do that, I think.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's funny about street cred too. Street cred. Now I've said it more than you. Is that like I don't think of myself as that way, and
sure, of course, yeah.
Oh gosh, I've been like really but like in a way, like my husband is like he has said, oh, there was a period of time where we were talking about he's like cash in a little bit, and that's kind of what he's talking about. Cash in, not in a money way, but in a like personal peace way.
Yeah. On
which
what
I
you've
do
built.
think. Sorry.
Like in a sense well, sorry, I'll let you finish before I comment.
No. Yeah, this is a conversation.
Well, I think no, it's not. It's an interview.
Maybe for you.
No, of course. No, it's like I hear you on that, but I think for you, I think of it for myself, but specifically for you and what it sounds like your husband is saying is, it's like again, it sucks that we have these words like cashing in or capitalize on or like take advantage of, but you've built something. I mean, and to experience the. Maybe security might not be the right, because I'm not even saying financial security, but it's like, but you've built something, and it's hard to build something. It's very hard to build something, and to have it be both very successful and well liked by a pretty diverse sort of like demographic, and for that to stick, and for you to be like, for you to be like. Making quote unquote mom jokes. I mean, that's not what you're doing, but it's like making mom jokes. The same person who was half the team that created Insta Clerb You know, like that's really, there's just a lovely evolution happening there to me.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, even before you were like talking about the difference between our careers, I'm like, the cashing in thing is like personally, in a personal peace way. And David was like totally right about that. And like thinking about my therapy and like talking about a sense of deprivation. And then going back to the beginning, which Sophie and Nava, you promised we would be flipping the loop, is that it is about like the sense of deprivation these billionaires have. You have billions of dollars. Our system, and like, you're just lucky. You're not really worth that money. You're just lucky that you fell into that spot in the system. Like nobody's literally worth $1 billion. You know what I mean? Like, but for these people who are lucky enough to be in this system where they got the seat, you remember musical chairs, they got the seat where they're the billionaire. And they're still miserable and blaming trans people and finding a way to terrorize Black women and imprison, you know, and rule women's bodies. That's a sense of deprivation that I have since I've been working on. It's taken me a lot of work, and it takes like a lot of resources, money and time and effort. And I've now like arrived at my creative engine separate from my sense of deprivation. And while David was saying cashing in, it's like that was at the time, but like that wording doesn't even like work anymore. And it's also funny, Penn, because we were just talking about like the capitalist system. All the words you're saying, it's all like so forced to be capitalized on. Like it's we don't even have a vocabulary outside the system because this is the world that we're in right now. Although I do think it is changing and we are changing it. We are responsible to change it. But like the words that we have for it don't even capture the context we're trying to fucking live in. But it's taken a long time, you know, and that sense of deprivation isn't truly productive.
Yeah. I have so many directions I want to go in. I'm going to go in 2 different directions, but just really quickly, just a little button on what you were just saying. I also think that having extreme wealth just reflects, maybe not bar none, but for the most part, I think just reflects also that you love money. So you like organize your life in a way where you can you're also good at it. I mean, you have to have like a certain skill set to generate wealth. And maybe that's not something to be ashamed of or whatever, or vilified. But you have to organize your life in a certain way to be able to generate great wealth. And past a certain amount, like great wealth doesn't do much for your life, but it does like destabilize the society around you for you to have it. So I would say that I think it is a vice to accumulate a lot of wealth. But in any event, so I think it does reflect that. If you have a lot of wealth, you also love the accumulation of wealth and you're good at it. Then the second thing that in a totally different direction, Penn mentioned in a club, and I can't even say it the right way, but it's been making a resurgence on social media. I don't know if you've seen that. And if you have, I was curious if you have a favorite one. A rock. Yeah.
Actually, I was not aware of it until this, and I still haven't seen can somebody explain to me what the moment was or what it's been?
You're not on Instagram, Penn?
He is on Instagram, but barely.
I am, but I don't go on it hardly ever.
The ghost of Penn Badgley is on Instagram.
We're on his account.
No, we're actually not. It is him, but okay, Ilana, I want you to explain it, but I just want to tell you my favorite one. I don't know if you've seen this one. Is a little rat, like a real rat, up against a wooden beam. Have you seen this one?
No.
Okay, I'll try to find it and send it to I'll send it to your publicist. It's this rat. It looks like it's in like Studio 69 in the 70s. Having its sexual awakening against a wooden beam. It's amazing.
That is so funny. Doing like a bear scratch, maybe.
Yeah, it's like doing a little bear scratch against a beam. It's amazing.
That's so cute. Okay, so Lucia Agnello, who just won her 78th Golden Globe last night for Hacks, which she co-created with Paul Debbie Down and Jen Statsky, who all worked on Broad City. Paul and Lucia were there because Jen was actually writing on A Good Place and Parks and Rec. So Paul and Lucia were in the Broad City Writers Room with us all 5 seasons, and really me and Abby's partners in making Broad City. Lucia, we just would come with stuff to the writers' room. You know what I mean? Madonna, Rihanna, Alana. was biking to the writer's room, and it just hit me. And I brought it in, and then we were like, okay, it's in. And then Lucia was like, and this is like, I think when we had our, I think this happened after Yas Queen. When we had our like Yas Queen episode, we like learned what cultural appropriation was. You know, we were like, Yas Queen. And then it was like, wait, this is from drag queens and young queer people of color in the city. We just didn't even know the root of it and the history and, you know, whatever. And then like in learning that, we started, I think, just making fun of ourselves a little bit more. And Lucia brought in this like, I mean, to us, it was like kind of gross. It was, or gross as in cringe, where she was just like laughing as she's pitching this like cringy phrase that Alana's like, into clerb, we all fam. And then we put it on Abby to be like, what? And then, but we're all like kind of with Alana wanting this to be reality.
Yeah.
And she's like, Abby's like, what? And Alana's like, into clerb, we all fam. In the club, we are all family. Are you racist? As though Abby's racist for not appropriating. Like, so, I mean, that's not even like slang that anybody is using. It's like so fucking silly. So
it's
silly.
So good.
But then it like it popped back up from, oh, you know, it was Brooke and Connor's podcast, Connor, and then also this girl Maggie, these comedians just like doing it and popping it off again and doing a Broad City rewatch.
They brought it back?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Maggie Winters and Connor from Brooke and Connor. And you know, the thing like with all, even if it's misguided or problematic, it's just like so like open-hearted and inclusive, and it was really funny. Fucking Kamala Harris and Usher did it.
Is that your favorite?
Oh.
Wild. Kerry Washington and Bobby D.
Wow.
Robert De Niro did it. Hysterical.
Wow.
I was like,
silly.
I don't know who Bobby D is, but
Yeah,
Bobby D. It was really, it has been so sweet to watch.
I'm like, my favorite one is a rat. And you're like,
so funny.
Harris,
So funny. I do want to see
Robert
it.
De
They're all
Niro. Okay.
they're honestly all valuable.
Yeah. Wow.
But just to be clear, is there any reason for the recent resurgence other than that? Was there like a...
I mean, I think like cycles of time. I think that it's like, you know, while it was happening, I think people watching Broad City were like, what the fuck is going on? Because you really hadn't seen New show like that. And then, and at the time, like I remember like, you know, college kids were writing papers on it or whatever. Now it aired first in 2014. So now it's been 10 years since it aired, 5 years since it ended. And I think, you know, there was a girls rewatch podcast, and I think the same one rewatched Broad City. And just girls feels different. Like, holy shit. Like what, you know, speaking Penn of your experience as a even younger person, but like that was, and before girls. And then Lena, the way like what the media, you know, kind of did to her and used her as was so crazy. And she's like, well, sorry, I'm a fucking genius. I'm going to go write more shows. Bye, you know? But to see young women be free in that way, and, you know, like young women with money, like still having like the same struggles, you know, that people who were broke did, being disrespected by boys and shit. And then Broad City, like then it just kind of came back up where I think people are like, damn, that shit was forward thinking, you know? Forward thinking. We were like, we didn't really realize like the also like identity politics was not what it was then as it is now, but we weren't like, we are feminist, queer, Jewish. We like kind of were, but it was kind of just a joke, and like we were increasing our awareness around it and infusing that in the show. But at the time, it was just we were just being who we were.
There's a bit from the show that I think about so regularly. I don't know why. It's like there's so many funny ones, but this one just comes to mind all the time. Is when you guys you go to Beacon's closet and you're trying to sell your clothes, and the girl is the person behind the counter is like so judgmental, and that is so real and still persists to this day. Anytime which is actually kind of often that I do bring my clothes to like Crossroads or Buffalo Exchange or something like that, it's so embarrassing. Sometimes I'm like get my husband to do it. I'm like, you stay at the counter. I'm going back here. Yeah.
Ilana, we do have a final question. If you could spend time with your 12-year-old self, what would you say or do?
I would say, girl, you are perfect. Do not change a thing. You got this. You know who you are, what you got to do. Even if you are, even if you doubt it, that's part of your process. It doesn't matter. But I'm telling you, you can have no fear, no doubt. You are perfect right in this moment and for the rest of your life.
Gorgeous.
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving us your time today.
This is so fun and such a good, meaningful conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you. We're really appreciative.
You can watch Ilana Glazer's new special, Human Magic, on Hulu now, and you can follow her online at Alana. We are so excited that you can now listen to Podcrushed ad-free on Amazon Music. In fact, you can listen to any episode of Podcrushed ad-free right now on Amazon Music with an Amazon Prime membership.
One caveat too, which is just that I have a little puppy sleeping on my lap, and at some point he's gonna wake up and I'm gonna have to mute and open a door and let him out.
Yeah, well, at some point can we see the puppy?
Yes.
Definitely.
Right now. Can you see him? Did I angle that correctly?
Sort of.
I don't even seem like to see a long, beautiful, shiny fur back. How gorgeous.
He's really beautiful.
He is gorgeous, and he feels like a $16,000 Hermes bag.
Ooh.
He feels.
Wow.
I guess that's what he's made out of. He's made out of great leather.